Well, welcome to the Friday Bubble. Today we're going to talk about Blanc de Blanc, and we have 4 champagnes from Palmer and Company. And to help explain a little bit about this, I have their export manager, Arthur, who's going to give us a little bit of insight. Now, one of the things I thought we ought to start off with is everybody thinks of Chardonnay and Blanc de Blanc in the Côte de Blanc, but you do something at Palmer a little bit differently.
Yes, indeed. We are not at all present in the Côte des Blancs at Champagne-Palmer. Historically, the maison has been established in the Montagne de Reims.
Right.
So Montagne de Reims is of course very well known for Pinot Noir, but at Palmer, the unique aspect of our maison is to have Chardonnay. From these 2 villages, Trépaille and Villers-Marmery, that we call our 2 treasury islands in this portion of Pinot Noir that is the Montagne de Reims. Trépaille, Villers-Marmery in Premier Cru, which are villages northeast facing, where you get a lot of freshness there because of vineyards seeing less sun during the year. And we have a bit of the blend as well coming from the Cézanne in Barbon, Côte de Sézanne. So an unusual blend for Blanc de Blanc. The usual suspects, the Blanc de Blanc we know well in Champagne will be made in the Côte des Blancs at Champagne-Palmer, it's indeed the Montagne de Reims.
Here we have the 16, which we're tasting right now, and we're going to compare that to 14, its predecessor, and then we've got a bit of fun with the larger formats. I must recommend these to so many people. So we have the 13, the current release, and then we've got the 8, so we can have a little bit of fun seeing what a bit of time post-disgorgement does. Now, one of the things I always love about the Palmer Blanc de Blancs is the generosity of the fruit. Now, where these villages are, so they're more northerly facing. And I think that's one of the things that must help this sort of flavour development.
Yeah, and it helps, but at the same time, we need to take the time to age properly. We age quite a lot at Palmer and our Blanc de Blanc as well. So if we want to achieve this level of complexity, we need to wait. We age our Blanc de Blanc on average 5 years only for the half bottle format, and a bit more time for the Magnum.
Now the 16 was one of these vintages, if you remember, in Champagne, I'm going to just call them 16, 14 and 12, and they have this generosity in the fruit profiles, and I think this shows it incredibly well, because this is actually fairly recently disgorged.
Yes.
And this has had nearly 5 years, I think nearly 5 years lees time, and the texture of this.
I love the texture. Yeah. Well, it's recently disgorged. It has been disgorged more than 6 months ago, which is for us very recently disgorged. If we can, usually we wait a year. This one has just been released now, so it's less than that. But I agree, a lot of freshness, a lot of fruit. What I love with it as well is if you wait a little bit in the glass, the aromas will evolve and give more of this creaminess, pastries flavor that is really typical of our Blanc de Blanc.
Well, I was going to ask if you kind of have a favourite, drinking them young or with a little bit of time, because we might be able to do this comparison now. Because so this is 2014. I think fruit-wise, in terms of the weather and they're very similar. Now this has had at least 2 more years post-disgorgement time, so I'm guessing it's completely different.
It's very different, yeah. It has the time after disgorgement is very important. We always talk about the time on the leaves, but time after disgorgement, I really love it. It brings this nice patina, this almondy character that I really enjoy.
So there's this lovely charm. I always describe it as walking into a patisserie shop, and you start to get these sort of toastiness, butteriness, what do you call it? Just richness of those sort of aromatics.
Yeah. But at the same time, you get all the freshness. They have a lot of complexity, a lot of taste, this brioche aroma you explained, but still this nice citrusy flavor coming from this terroir of the Montagne de Reims with a lot of tension.
There's a really, on the palate, this is really different. The 16's so young, it's sort of vibrant and energetic. The 14's starting to go to this creamy, isn't it? The texture's becoming soft and juicy, and this is really quite young to me as well, 2014. It's going to be fascinating to see, because we're going to go to 13 in the Magnum, which should be even younger, as much as it shouldn't be, but I'm sure it will be. Well, the 14 is amazing. I love this weight and the texture and the richness on the palate. And there is a bit of magnum effect here. It's fascinating. There's a bit of
I agree.
charming sort of reductive smokiness to it.
Time after disgorgement again helping a lot. But I really love our Blanc de Blanc after at least 1 year post disgorgement. If you cannot wait, you open the bottle, you pour in your glass, and you wait a little bit, play with it in your glass to get more of this patina.
I think one of the things when we're lucky to come and taste the Blanc at Parma quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Quite a lot. When we taste the William Armory, they always have this incredible richness and power. Chapai, I always describe, it's got a little bit more. It's a little bit more restrained, isn't it?
Yeah. More austere.
More austere, and you can see some of these elements showing really well today. I think in the 14, you can see them both.
And again, this addition of the Cézanne, which is about 10 to 12% of the blend, give a bit of roundness as well in the wine. That for me is a perfect balance.
And that's a little bit further south, isn't it? So it's a little bit hotter down there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, more level of ripeness, obviously.
Right.
With vineyards that are not facing northeast. You are not Barbon, you are in the Cézanne down south from Epernay.
Now, the 2013, I can't do tastings without a Magnum, so here's the first one. This was one of the last, this was the last harvest that took place in October in Champagne. So global warming's having this massive effect in Champagne. We're seeing many, many more August harvests, which isn't necessarily a good thing. But I suppose we're lucky here because where your vineyards are, they're a little bit more sheltered, they're a little bit more northerly facing, so a bit less affected by the effect of the heat that's happened in Champagne. I can't wait to get this open actually. So,
but yeah, that's what we say. Even during warmer years, we manage to get still a lot of freshness in this terroir, mainly due to the northeast facing.
So we've got a cooler year here. So October harvest, and you really see the difference because we haven't at the moment when it's young. We haven't got so much of those tropical notes. Certainly on the aromatics at the moment. So got that lovely smoky reductive note, which is rather charming. Oh, actually, now the tropical notes are coming through on the palate. And it's really quite rich. It's funny, because I've just opened that, I'm doing the opposite of what we always advise, which is opening and drinking. Because actually it's so compressed when it's just open like this, that we're missing probably 50% of the wine. What are you tasting in this one, Arthur?
Yeah, it needs time to open a little bit. It's really interesting to taste it just after the bottle, which is 14, so it's older champagne, but with the Magnum effect you get this nice freshness, tension that you couldn't believe that's the wine that is older than the previous one. But fruit is there, good tension, but again, like to wait a little bit to let the wine open.
Now this is relatively recently disgorged, probably about 18 months ago, I think, isn't it?
Correct.
So at the moment, this is my bet for buying and cellaring for 5+ years. It's incredible. It's so tight and it's not giving anything, is it?
No. You still have time. I mean, you can enjoy it now, but you can definitely wait more, and especially with the Magnum format. That's a lot of years in front of it to express even more. I agree.
And there's some the really nice thing, there's some really great acidity in it. And on the palate, you can really feel the weight of the fruit. On the aromatics at the moment, it's going through one of those phases where it's not giving much away at all, but let's see. So, it's not a dissimilar vintage. The 08. The 08's been hugely hyped over the last few years, and quite rightfully so. There's some wonderful champagnes that have come from 2008. So let's see what the Blanc de Blanc is like from 2008. Here we go. Now let's just have a little bit of a talk, because one of the things we haven't really done is we haven't described anything spicy or oaky today, and that's probably for the very good reason that it's all fermented in stainless steel. So you just get the expression of pure Chardonnay fruit in these
And we don't use any oak at Palmer. We are going to use oak barrel for only to film for our
Right.
rosé, but that's not the topic today.
Now the 08, are they different or?
But 08 is incredible, isn't it? So much tension, so much freshness still.
I think this is, again, I just said the 13 is way too young to be drinking. Actually, the 8's, it's more generous now because it's, 4 or 5 years post-disgorgement. So it's just developing some of the richness that we saw in the 14 bottle. But it's a long way to go. You know, there's only just a little bit of patisserie coming through.
Yeah.
So
that's the specificity of the vintage 08. You know, we even though we don't write the vintage on the label, they are all vintages.
Mm-hmm.
Our idea is to try to recreate a certain style.
Now, with a bit of time in the glass, it's literally a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
But you see, it's starting to give a little bit. Some of that lovely richness. It's got the Magnum effect. It's got that beautiful smoky charm, which is, you know, it always seduces me when I taste a Magnum because it's just another little bit of complexity in there.
Yeah, a bit of smokiness, almond character.
And then all these rich, you know, I can taste the Villa Marmorey, having tasted all those lovely Blanc. You can see that richness. There's pineapple and there's guava, and then you've got all this whack of sort of citrus in there.
Yeah.
And there is actually a little bit of.
What do you get?
There's a little bit of kumquat in here, which is that sort of weird orangey sort of element. Which
No, but you're right. There is this
oily
character,
oily,
texture. Citrus is there, sort of citrus fruits, but on a sort of marmalade cooked citrus fruit, which is very pleasant to taste now.
The 8's incredible now with those extra time post disgorgement. It really goes to show because even the 13, when you nip back to it, it's still too young. It's too close to its disgorgement to be giving we're missing half of the joy that are going to come in the future, I think. The 14 in bottle now, it really is just, it's a rather lovely point. It's just lovely, rich, and there's a beautiful weight coming on the palate of the 14. And then the 16, it's very much a citrus profile, isn't it?
There's a lot of freshness, a lot of citrus fruits, great acidity.
So the biggest difference, of course, the obvious, is obviously lees time. So these are 4.5 to 5 years on the lees. Often these are getting 10.
Yeah,
if 8 to 10, sometimes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And post disgorgement time in all of these is just, you know, these two are just starting their journey of what I'm going to call joyfulness. The 8 Magnum is...
No, it's great. I mean, I love it. It can still give a lot, but it's really enjoyable at the moment.
Well, we might be having dinner later. Which one are you taking to dinner, Arthur?
I don't know, let's take them all. We will see, we will find out. But we will definitely start the aperitif with the 16, and then we will see where brings the meal. But 16 for the aperitif is perfect. The 14, even in the half magnum format, is showing beautifully.
So there we go. Chardonnay seems to do quite well in the non-Chardonnay regions. So, Arthur, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Nick. Santé.
Cheers, and happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.